podcast for a while. I'm just like, wait, what do I do? I see they added something too that looks pretty cool that we'll have to look at is Showcase, where you can share out links during the show.
Oh.
And so Google Hangouts even improved while I've been gone. So there you go. All right. Let's do it. Ready? All right, John, edit here. Hello. Welcome to Booklandia. Oh, you were confused, huh? No, this is Booklandia. It's a new format that we're going to try. We have our good friend over in Michigan, Colby Sharp, on, and he is going to give you, instead of when we used to give you 3 apps and 3 Twitter users to follow, then we give you 3 ideas and all that stuff, all those 3s. Now Colby is just going to give you 3 books that he thinks that you can use in your classroom that he thinks are great right now, and so Colby's just going to go ahead and talk about some books, and that's all it is, and we're going to be a lot shorter. We don't have Kurt Rees to throw things off kilter. We don't have Allison chiming in, even though she went to nerd camp, so she's way more qualified to be on there, but Allison's on vacation. Kurt's doing his doctoral work. It's just me and Colby talking books. And Colby, will you give us a little intro real quick on the Nerdy Book Club website and where else to find some resources for you?
Yeah, you can find, I work on a collaborative blog called Nerdy Book Club. It's just nerdybookclub.com, and we run a post every day centered around books and reading. And we'd love to have you visit the site, and there's a spot in the top right corner if you'd like to be a guest blogger. I think we've had over 600 guest bloggers in the 2.5 years we've existed, so we're always looking for people to post. We run a post every day, and that can get a little stressful. So feel free to come on and join the community. We'd love to have you there. You can also find me at Colby Sharp or MrColbySharp.com.
Nice. Okay. You're like so professional with your intro there. I know, and then I double hit the mute button, so then I was like, wait. That's great, and I want to thank you again for coming on during Camp Plug and Play for me and talking to those teachers and
that was fun.
telling them a little bit. That was very nice of you to do that, and it was nice of Brad Wilson to come in also, and we had Tony Vincent come in also and demo his app Tellabout. So and we had Brad do Right About This. So. We had a full week. We had Google Hangouts going on all over the place.
That's awesome.
I know. All right, so go ahead and give us your first book. Now remember also, I will say that since this is a shorter podcast, that what I will do is I will put links to everything that Colby is talking about into a Listly, and I will blog post every single time we have I am at Starbucks right now. I am committed to get it done before I leave. So there will be a blog post with all the links and everything he's talking about. So just listen to him talk about the books. He only reads. Colby, how many books do you read per year, would you say?
The last 2 years I read just over 1,000. The last 2 years. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And you didn't even do accelerated reader tests for him.
Not this. I don't think I would have. No, I've never actually taken an accelerated reader test.
Oh, I've just looked over his shoulders and seen them from time to time. Okay, go ahead and give us your first book.
Sure, John. I'm going to start with a book called Circa Now, and it's by Amber McCree Turner. It's a middle grade novel, and Amber's just created these amazing characters. She's created a tragic story. Circa Monroe is this girl, and she's really tight with her dad. Her dad is a photographer, and they have this thing where they call Shopped, where they take pictures and they Photoshop different things into them. And just like silly things and different things, and like the better at shop you are, then is when people can't tell that the photo is doctored, and it's a really cool thing. And very early in the book, the dad gets this call, and he's got to deliver these photos, and like that woman is crazy. She's like, "We need these photos now for this family reunion," and so the dad rushes out the door, and he's just trying to get there, and there's a tornado, and he actually dies. And it's just crushing on Circa, and her mom already really struggles with depression, and mom doesn't really get out of the house much, and it's just really rough on her and Circa, and as things just a little bit after the funeral and stuff, there's this boy, and this boy shows up at their house, and just real scraggly looking and messy looking, and he's got one of the pictures that the dad had. And the boy remembers nothing, John. He remembers nothing from his life, nothing from before the storm. And Circa starts to, they kind of take him in and try and take care of him. They're trying to figure out what to do with him and try to find a place for him, and he doesn't know anything, and there's been so much devastation from this tornado that the people who'd usually taken a boy like this, they just can't. So they kind of take him in, and Circa starts to realize that the things that her and her dad shopped into photos, it starts to kind of appear that those things are actually starting to come true. So the things that her dad put into these photographs are like appearing, things like a bird nest and different things. And you kind of start to wonder if this boy, Miles, was something that they shopped in and that they created. And it's just got this beautiful mystery and these wonderful characters and a crazy ending, John. You have to try Circa Now. It's a beautiful, beautiful book.
That sounds interesting. Now, it sounds very, so you're losing a father there, so it sounds like it's kind of dark. So that's why you think it's built more for the middle school crowd then, for
Upper
sure.
Elementary, probably
Upper elementary. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And you're also dealing with depression and things like that with the mom.
Scraggly guys like myself, I mean, look, I'm pretty scraggly
version.
right now. Yeah, I know, much, much younger. That sounds very interesting. Okay, that kind of piques my interest. Of course, I'm a big fan of things like that, though, too, where I like, I don't know, people always laugh at me because, like, I say my favorite movie is Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, one of the more depressing movies, like, ever, but I love that movie, so that book appeals to me, that's kind of like I like that. That sounds great. Okay, so that's a good one. So that's Circa Now, Amber McGee Turner.
Yes, Amber McGee.
And then we'll go with, go ahead, and I will, luckily the grinder was going while I was muted, so go ahead and give us your second book then.
Yeah, we're going to move into a picture book. It's called The Adventures of Beagle, the Unimaginary Friend by Dan Santat. And kids probably know Dan Santat from his graphic novel Sidekicks and some of the other picture books he's done. He recently redid all of the illustrations for Dave Pilkey's Ricky Ricotta series. Just a tremendous illustrator. He probably is the hardest working man in children's literature. But Beagle is kind of like that book where you feel like everything that he has done in his life was building towards this book. And Beagle is an imaginary friend, and he lives in the land of all of the imaginary friends. And each night, as the imaginary friends are imagined by boys and girls across the world, the imaginary friends get lifted up and go to live with their person. And Beagle doesn't get imagined. So he decides to take matters into his own hands and sail to the real world to try to find a friend. It's just this beautiful journey of this unimaginary friend, this little white creature with a gold helmet that's taped together. Yeah, it's a must-read picture book. I'm looking forward to reading it with my students at the beginning of the year this year.
Oh wow, that sounds interesting. And so that's what I like. That's what I like about you, Colby. You're like, okay, here I've got this Circa Now, this book that's got some heavy hitting to it. And now I'm going to go to a picture book. It's really, it's like you would just have like a wealth of knowledge about these things, and that sounds really interesting. So, and tell us what grade you teach. Remind us what grade you teach again, Colby. So
I teach third grade.
Third grade, okay. And yeah, that sounds really interesting. And that was one of always my favorite times was after we came in from recess or lunch recess or whatever, right? Because why would we have recess during the day? I mean, lunch recess when the kids are out. But I always loved reading books and doing read-alouds just for like 10 minutes or so, 10 or 15 minutes. It was always great fun. That's how I used to get through all my books and series of unfortunate events and all those things back in the day. All right. So there it is, and we have a new guest. Scott Bedley has joined us from his car. How are you doing, Scott?
Hey, you guys, I'm really sorry to join in late. The traffic out here is awful. I'm in Southern California, Colby. So.
Okay. Well, you know what? Colby would say write a book about the traffic in Southern California, and maybe you can be on the show. Maybe you can be on Booklandia sometime. All right, so we just finished. Oh, you would have liked the first book, Scott. We'll recap for you real quick at the end. And now this one is interesting because Colby and I were talking about this one a little bit, and the person, this is going to be nonfiction, and he's going to go through and give us a Texan, which I used to be as well until now I'm in Oregon at a loud coffee shop. So go ahead and give us your third book.
Yeah, Babe Conquers the World, The Legendary Life of Babe Didrikson Zacharias. Not really sure how to say that name. It's written by Rick Wallace and his wife, Sandra Neal Wallace. Sandra actually used to be a sideline reporter and an anchor for ESPN, which is really interesting. So she knows all about what it's like to try to break into a man's world, and she decided that her and her husband wrote this book together, decided that they wanted to tell the story of Babe Didrikson, who I had, living in Michigan, had no idea who she was, but basically she's like the greatest athlete of all time, male or woman. She was like a national champion basketball player. She was an multiple Olympic gold medalist, and then she basically did more for women's golf than any athlete has ever done for any sport. So basically, she married a professional wrestler. Like, she did it all. Right? Like, she did it all.
Yeah.
And so, it's a must read. I would never usually pick up a book like this. I don't really care to learn about, hurdlers and track. It's not usually my favorite thing, but I had met Sandra and had dinner with her in Boston last fall and CTE, and just talking about Babe and Didrikson and just the story and her passion about it just made me very intrigued about the book. But it's just one of those things where we just feel really lucky to have books and children's literature, so the stories like Babe Didrikson's aren't dead. Because when you think Olympics at that time period, you think someone like Jesse Owens, not Babe Didrikson. But the way that she paved the way for women, I think, is just one of the most amazing stories I've heard in a long, long time.
Colby, don't you think that's true when you really get a chance to connect with an author and hear their passion behind a story? It just is so powerful. I think that's a great thing about using some of these tools that we have, like Skype and Google Hangouts, to bring authors in, and like you did at your event, just to connect the kids to the authors. And it's so much. There's a lot of power behind that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We know a lot about writing as teachers, and we read books, and we believe tremendously in our pedagogy. But to hear how the authors who do it for a living do it, and there's nothing like we were doing a fiction unit and I was trying to get my kids to develop characters, which is not their favorite thing. They just want to start writing the story, and then we Skype with Erin Soderbergh, who wrote a book that we read aloud, and she talks about how she spends days developing characters. And basically, she went on for 15 minutes telling them the exact same thing that I had been telling them, but it meant nothing when I said it. But when she said it, I'm like, what are you doing? Like the next day, oh, I'm doing this thing that Miss Soderbergh taught us. I'm like thinking inside my head, you just keep doing that. And I try to teach you that too, but as long as they're doing it. But yeah, I agree completely. It's we teach in a very, very cool time.
It is cool. And then, what I was going to say, that's kind of like why we decided to start this podcast, was because when we had John Techlandia, Colby, it just sounded like you were doing so many cool things, and you were so passionate about books and just doing nerd camp and all those things. I thought, yeah, we need to do this. We need to start talking every month, and this is something that teachers have problems with. It's hard to keep up and read books that they enjoy, let alone try and read books and keep current with literature that their students enjoy. And the best way that I used to do that was I would just ask the kids, I'd be like, okay, what are you, or you just watch what they were reading and then ask them about it a little bit, like just for their novel for pleasure. And I mean, it's really apparent, that once you can do that and find that little niche, that you find somebody that's passionate about something, it's a good thing. And I will say, I'll give a shout out to Babe Didrikson, who has her museum in Beaumont, Texas, a home of great regional service center where they gave a young, I guess an old guy, a chance to keynote a conference there, the Mobile Mania conference. That was me. So anyway, that's a look, and we call that a hashtag look at me, Colby. That's what we call that. I just did that for Scott because we like to do the look at me tweets real quick. Hey, look, I was keynoting a conference in Beaumont, Texas.
Hashtag so blessed.
Hashtag so blessed. So anyway, that was great. And now, as long as we have time real quick, and I'll mute my microphone in a second, can you just give us a little, I know you gave it to my class in Arizona, will you give a little just summary of Nerd Camp and what just went down for the people that don't know about the Nerd Camp that was just from the Nerdy Book Club website? You have the Nerd Camp in July.
Sure, I'll give you the 30-second version. So day 1, 15 speakers, a keynote, 300 plus people. Day 2, an Ed Camp with over 300 people, followed by Ed Camp Junior, where 12 authors talked to 285 kids and shared stories and how to write and how to become better people. It was one of the most magical experiences of my life.
And you're going to ramp it up for next year. You're going to try the same that you think you found your sweet spot. That's the time frame that you'd like to have it. Just do it in that same kind of sequence and go through it that way.
Yeah, little tweaks. I'd like to get more people involved instead of maybe having one big keynote. Maybe doing more of the Ignite session / TED Talk type things, just to get more people involved, let more people share their stories.
That's cool. Maybe we can get Allison. I know a young lady that traveled all the way from Oregon to Michigan, young Allison Anderson, and she told me all about it. So maybe we'll get her to do an Ignite. She gets scared to death to talk. That's her thing, though.
Well, Ignites are short, so.
Yeah, she needs to do that. Let's pressure her. Let's pressure her to get out of her comfort zone a little bit here. Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. Well, Colby, thanks for being on. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, when I come to you next time and we do this, I'll be at Techlandia World Studios West Coast, and instead of at a Starbucks in Beaverton, Oregon. But that's what we've got. That's what I got for you right now. But thanks for sharing, and I will. We'll get all the links out, and I'll get that done before I leave here, or else I am never leaving this Starbucks.
Thanks. Hey, John, really quick, when you're looking for links, make sure you watch the book trailer to Beagle.
Okay.
Make sure you watch the Beagle book trailer. Just Google search The Adventures of Beagle, and it'll show up. I think Dan Santan actually created 2 trailers, but yeah, you'll probably watch that trailer and instantly go to your local bookstore and buy a copy. It's that good.
That's good. Right. Yeah. Yep. Feed me any more of the links that you want me to put in there too into the Google Doc, and we'll make sure that those get out to people. Yeah, because those are important things too.
Cool.
All right. Thanks,
Colby.
Guys. Hey, we'll see you next time on Booklandia. Thanks, everybody.